of Sisters Corner. We've had a break for a while, and I know you've been watching reruns. We had a break for fasting, and alhamdulillah, hopefully all of you had an amazing spiritual experience, as well as benefiting from the whole month, the whole blessed month, physically as well. But we've all gone back to business, all back to our daily lives, and actually it's such a pleasure to be joined here as part of my daily life back on the show by Sister Hawarun Hussein Saunders, who's going to talk to us about her various community leadership roles, as well as her time as a local councillor, and particularly some of the campaigns and charity works that she's been involved in. So really welcome, Hawarun, and thank you for making time to see us.
Thank you for having me in the show. Thank you.
No,
Lovely seeing you.
And you too.
Considering we live so close to each other, we just don't see each other as much.
Yeah. This is one of the things I was trying to work on during fasting. It's trying to remember what's important, and family and friends, and unfortunately work and life takes over, doesn't it?
Of course.
But you're no stranger to that, because you've actually juggled a lot in your young life.
Thank you.
And obviously eternally young. You still look like I saw you 20 odd years ago. So
Yeah, I love you as well.
Well, we don't age, do we? It's just a number. We will age, and we'll do what needs to happen, and we'll do it gracefully, I hope. Anyway,
Inshallah.
so do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing now? And then I'd like to sort of, we're very blessed, like I said. Hawarun is an ex-councillor, but she's also an ex-deputy Lord Mayor of Bradford. So I'd really like to talk to you a little bit about, what's the mindset that gets you going there. So maybe if we start with exactly what you're up to now, and then, sorry, there's just a little hair in the way. And then,
well, right now I'm working for NHS England. I'm working on a project called Continuing Healthcare. And if lots of people are looking and thinking, what is she on about? It's fine. Not a lot of people know about it, because the NHS is the NHS, and everybody just sees it as it's there when we need it. Continuing healthcare is when people get very old and start needing to be looked after, and there is an element of something called social care, which is what the council pay for, and healthcare, which is to do with, so if somebody's really old and really frail, and it's frail and it's impacting on their health, then it's what NHS will look after and take care of them. If it's not NHS, then council will look after the social care element, will kick in.
that sounds like quite a scary and senior role, is that right?
It's the national role, and I'm loving it. I really appreciate the challenge, and you learn loads. You learn so much, and it's not front facing, so we don't see members of public, we don't see what I class as real people, but I'm loving it, just getting to know so much happening up and down the country. And it's an area that needed looking at. So the national policy document, which is called the National Framework, that's been updated this year, and it will go live in October, so we're sort of doing lots of preparation to make sure that what the policy document says we can deliver on, otherwise we're stuck.
And ultimately, that I suppose as a country we can look after our older people properly, in the manner that they need it, at the time that they need it, in the place that they need it.
It's so important. My mother is in that position. You will have relatives and family friends who are in that position, and we all do. That's how we came to this planet, because we have predecessors, parents, and people, grandparents, and it's so important to get it right so that they have a dignified time, those last few, but sometimes it can be, because continuing healthcare kicks in quite late on, so it can be weeks or months, maybe a year or two, so they have a dignified time before they leave us.
That is really important, isn't it? But I think it's fair to mention, whilst we're here and talking on this subject, that this year is a big anniversary for the NHS.
Oh, it is.
Isn't it?
I can't believe it. I've been in the NHS 24 years. Wow. I know. I was just like, wow. And since I started working in the NHS, I haven't looked back. I've loved every job I've had. I've had lots of different jobs in it, and I love it. And it's 70 years old. It defines UK, I think. I don't think a lot of people realise how much it defines the society we live in. The fact that if you tripped over and fall in the streets, an ambulance will come and pick you up, take you to hospital, sort you out, and if you can't arrange your own transport, somebody will drop you off. My you will know my parents are originally from Bangladesh. I do go and visit. I have a sister there, so I do go and visit her often. And people have to, before you even think about feeling ill and thinking about going to doctors or your hospital or something, you have to count your pennies. You have to figure out, can you afford to go? You have to figure out, can you pay the visit, because they charge a visit before you even see him,
Yeah. And
you
then
have to
for
pay
every
to be
bit
seen.
of medication and treatment, every single bit is itemised, isn't it?
Itemised and cost. And people forget that, and we don't appreciate it as much. The fact that, whatever illness we have, the NHS will deal with it. They will look after you. They will try their best in everything in their capacity to make you better.
So, I mean, it is a great institution, and I know we've been through trying times as a nation recently, and without getting into the politics of it, what can ordinary brothers and sisters, families out there do to support the NHS?
A few things. They can respect it. Respect the people who work within it. I think some people forget that in their stress or in their worries or when they're having anxiety about some of their loved ones, they have to appreciate that people out there are there to look after them, and not, and sometimes it doesn't feel like that when you're anxious or when you're worried, or if your mother's poorly, or if your child's poorly, you just want the whole world to be around that child to make everything better, and that's natural. But actually, just remember, those people are there to make your child better, so just give them the opportunity and the time. And the other thing I would say is not to take advantage of it, because sometimes people go and they want paracetamol, they've got a headache, and you think actually it costs a fraction. It costs 20 pence to buy a packet of paracetamols. If you go to the supermarket, they are 20 pence, aren't
20
they?
pence, 50 pence
20
maximum.
pence, for a packet of paracetamols. Any supermarket, any discount stores will sell them. You really don't need an appointment with the doctor to tell them that you have a cold or you've got a headache and you need paracetamol.
Because when you add all that up, that costs hundreds of pounds, doesn't it? So that packet of paracetamol,
so expensive.
It stops being 50 pence. It's not. Even if you had to pay for the prescription, it's not £8. When you type in when you add in the
time, the appointment, your time in going for that appointment, you might have to get a taxi up. So it's actually costs you, but it costs the NHS far, far more, because a doctor isn't just that appointment time. A doctor is a whole system. So an appointment with the doctor costs a lot more than the 5 minutes you spend within that doctor's, or with the doctor within that surgery. So it's really important. And I understand when you're worried, and especially when it's a child, definitely, if that child is worrying, you definitely take them to the doctor, or, get, or
and
ring.
if it's persistent, and it's been a few days, and there are other things that are not feeling right, you don't know how you feel. And we're not saying don't use your doctor, it's just appropriate times. And I think that's the other thing people can do to help is making the right choice. So, if you have got, like this week I've had a cold, and I've been doing what I call self-care, which, I've stayed at home, I've drank lots of fluids, I've stayed cool, I've, taken a bit of Lemsip when I felt like, I'm congested, I've, inhaled a bit of steam. So those self-care choices for, things. And if it carries on and, by the next weekend my sinuses are still hurting, then I will probably go and see someone. But you can make those choices. You can go and ask for a bit of advice from your from your paracetamol, from your pharmacy.
Pharmacists are an amazing place. They know lots about medication. So actually, if you're going to pay for a prescription, $7.99 or whatever it is at the moment, you might get an over-the-counter medicine, at half the price. Definitely worth going to have a chat with them, and definitely worth ringing the NHS, the helpline number, the 911 number, or googling NHS, choices, because you can look and it'll tell you, it'll give you, say, oh, it's, from what you said, it sounds like.
And that really does help. I remember, I can't remember what the number was at the time, but it was NHS Direct. It's now it's 111, isn't it? And I remember ringing because I had this. Actually, it was a headache, but it was when something's wrong. And I'd had meningitis previously, so the lady on the line, she listened to me. She could tell I was in pain, and she said, because of your history, go to A&E, so she can talk you through what's happened. So if I hadn't already had an episode, she would have been. And as it happened, and I didn't know it was possible, it was a really extreme case of sinusitis. And when I told the doctor, but it feels
yeah.
as painful as when I had meningitis, I just said, it will do.
Yeah.
It's just the root cause is different.
And I don't want anybody watching this to think actually the 111 number, they just can't, you know, they don't want you to go.
No.
Actually, they do. They just want to make sure you're in that right state to need to go. And they can decide between sending you to doctor, sending you to your hospital, sending you to A&E, you know.
And out of hours
they
doctor.
can, out of hours. So it's actually just giving you more choice rather than trying to book an appointment with your GP.
Actually, A&E, I'm sorry, who wants to go and sit there? I know it can't be
For
helped.
hours.
But who wants to go and sit there for hours and hours and hours if you can avoid it? And when you get there, you do kind of get stuck, actually. What I mean by stuck is my doctor sent me there for some concerns a few years ago, and I was like, actually, I don't think it's that bad. And, you know, several tests and things later, you know, my husband saw me walking, come out on a wheelchair, and he's like, what's happened? And I was just like, doctor's really concerned. So, you know, but I was just like, seriously, you know, next time I saw her, I said, don't send me there again, because no one wants to really. And we also, the other thing I suppose is, just be aware that if we are taking time up with a cold or something like that, you know, something small, we are possibly preventing someone else getting the really urgent care they need. You know, and that's the other thing. So it's about our respect for self, but respect for others. But it is an absolutely amazing institution, and I know, you know, we obviously, by the grace of Allah, we all live here and we all survive and we all get better from our illnesses. But my mum died from cancer, you know, 21 years ago this year. May she rest in peace. And she, you know, she did get some really good quality care from the nurses and the doctors and the professionals who looked after her. There were one or two who gave us a bit of a challenge, but generally there's no way we could have done what she needed. And the district nurses actually, so it's, the NHS is a lot more than just the doctors you see obviously. The district nurses who came and helped us look after her at home were absolutely amazing. So, you know, I'm such a, to say I'm a fan of an institution sounds like an odd thing, but I am, and I do think it's a blessing that we should do all our best to protect and make sure, you know, it's here in generations.
And if you're thinking about, if you're young and you're thinking about a career choice, you know, why not? You know, definitely worth going into. Definitely. Actually, if you're not so young and you're thinking about a career choice, it's definitely worth training up. You know, and you could start off in a healthcare assistance. Or, you know, entering the NHS system, you can enter at any level with any level of qualification.
A family friend who did just that. Her first job was healthcare assistant. She's a midwife now. And has been for many years. So it's not just like it's entry points, you know.
Can be at any level. People can go and get, you know, at 30 people can go and train up to be a doctor and enter as a new doctor. Why
absolutely.
Not? I know. I feel like I'm such an advert, you know, for NHS.
And
but like I said, I love it. I love the, like you said, you know, I love the institution just because I see how much good it does. And like you know, you see family members, you see friends, and you know, you see the care they're given and taken care of, you know.
And we have to look after it,
and we have to, if we don't look after it, how will it survive? If we don't value it, the politicians don't. They're not worried about it.
So, moving on then.
She says,
I know,
politicians.
Because I think, no, well, it's not that. We can absolutely talk about that. And we are going to talk about your time in politics, clearly. I was just thinking that, you know, we're both so passionate about the NHS, we could just talk for the next hour about
we
the
could
NHS.
Easily.
We might have to do a show on that, actually, just purely on that. That would be quite good fun. And interesting, and it is, you know, something to value, and we are privileged here. You know, and I say this to sort of my friends and family. I said, if you've got a roof over your head, you've got food in your belly, and you've got, you know, some way to have an income, we're doing better than probably 99% of the world, actually.
You know, people forget that.
And we've got sanitation, and we've got, you know, we're safe. That's such a blessing. So, absolutely. Anyway, what I was wondering is, I've always known you, clearly you're a very passionate person, and you've always sort of had a cause, if you like. So when I met you many moons ago, you were a community worker, sort of working in the heart of the Bangladeshi community. And I remember at the time you were really heavily involved in setting up some healthy gardening work.
I suppose that again it's, you know, harking on to, I think you have a natural inclination when you want to do stuff for your local population or the local community, you either want to do it or you don't. People can't be trained to do it. I mean, there is some element where people get in the job and think, oh, I actually like it, but there's got to be some natural inheritance, and I think I was born with it. But I think it's part of our upbringing, because we are the second generation, you and I and other people like us, and we're second generation migrants, or what are they? You know, where are we? Is there such a word as impact? Because expats are people going out of the country.
Yeah, the migrants or your immigrants.
Yeah, I know, but usually, yeah. So anyway, but I think we are, and you naturally, inherently are helpful, aren't you? Because you always, I mean, I wasn't born in the UK, so I was 11 when my mother moved and joined my father with me and my two younger brothers. So you naturally are helpful to other people, even when you can't speak their language or when you can't do something, you know, if you see somebody in difficulty, you tend to just go and say, you're all right. And I think that's what led me into community development work. So I started working in the local community centre, and then, you know, there were challenging bits and there were exciting bits, and there were things where you think, actually, I really enjoy doing this. And it was part of my link between the NHS and the community development role, where I was promoting heart health, as you know, helping people, what is now classed as self-care, you know, helping people to help themselves. So it wasn't so much, you know, go to doctors and get some tablets. It was a case of, before you get to that stage, let's look at what we can do to stop you getting ill. And years back, what the research found was, so this is going back 24 years. What they found was, you know, the BME community, the ethnic minority community, or the first generation, our parents who came over in the 60s and 70s, they've had a massive change. They've come and they've worked exceptionally hard. They've worked without family support. The diet hasn't been that good. They haven't, you know, looked after themselves because they've been busy working hard. You know, your father would have worked. My father, you know, worked nights, and a lot of people did hard labour. And of course, as they were getting old, they weren't, you know, they weren't really retiring and getting old slowly. They were getting old quite fast, getting a lot of old diseases, or what is classed as disease of the older generation, which was heart disease and diabetes. Go on.
I know. We're just going to have a break in a few seconds.
Yeah.
So when we come back, you're going to tell us quickly about that sort of initial, you know, project that you worked on, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time with our viewers talking about your role as a councillor and as a city and district mayor as well, because that's quite huge. And then we really want to, because it's Plastics Awareness Month.
Plastic Free is July.
Plastic Free July.
Yes.
So we definitely want to talk about that. So we're going to have to be really disciplined, because I think we can talk about these subjects, each of them for 1 hour at least. So inshallah, in a few seconds we'll be back, and we'll pick up where we left off.
Welcome to McDonald's. I know what you mean.
Nobody melts away the cold like McDonald's with our piping hot deluxe breakfast meals. And for lunch or dinner, warm up with our crispy chicken deluxe extra value meal. So get to McDonald's now during our melt away the cold days.
What did he say? Oh my God.
Did somebody say McDonald's? And to warm up with Carnival Cruises, call for great prices. Or come to McDonald's and enter to win a Carnival vacation.
People don't buy cars and trucks the way they did 5 years ago.
That's why Ford dealers are doing more than just keeping up. We're leading the way. Our computerized inventory will find the Ford you want in minutes.
And we've got the experience and the computer diagnostics to keep your car or truck running like new for years.
But we're not so high-tech that we've forgotten what's important.
And that's people.
There's more to afford because there's more to a Ford dealer. See your Tri-State Quality Ford dealer today.
He was the mortal son of Zeus. She was known as the warrior princess. Together, they're the biggest event to hit home video. Hercules and Xena, the animated movie, featuring the voices of Kevin Sorbo.
How can I calm down when Zeus has kidnapped my mother?
And Lucy Lawless.
It ain't over till it's over, big boy.
With all the action and adventure you love, Hercules and Xena, the animated movie. Look for the special rebate offer.
If you're like most people, the only time you have to take care of personal business is when all the businesses are closed. but not at the money store. If you want to consolidate high-rate bills with one low-rate home equity loan, you can call the money store anytime. Tonight, this weekend, 24 hours a day. You can apply over the phone, and there's no application fee. The money store's ready when you are. So if you own a home, call now at 1-800-LOAN-YES.
Does your skin feel a little dry? Quench it with the best Vaseline intensive care yet. It heals dry, thirsty skin for 12 hours, so there's never a dry moment. Heal your dry skin healthy with Vaseline intensive care.
It's constant chaos. You don't get a second chance.
We asked some of the hottest women in news to try Degree.
Body heat activated.
As your body heat rises, Degree releases extra protection when you need it most.
It was there for me, second by second, right when I needed it.
Degree. Your body heat turns it on.
My New Year's resolution. Eat more chocolate. Sweet escapes. Real Hershey's chocolate with less fat.
Well, it's that time again. Hello, can you say sale? It's Pier 1's winter clearance and sale. And who doesn't like a sale? With terrific buys on all your favorites, you'll need a friend to help carry it all. Pier 1's winter clearance and sale. Going on now.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. I'm here with my wonderfully enthusiastic and talented sister Hawarun Hussein Saunders, who's been very busy in her young life. And just before the break we were talking about the heart healthy work you were doing with the Bangladeshi community, which in a way was a bit of a springboard for you to get really concerned and involved in lots of different causes, wasn't it? So in a minute, if you can, outline what that project was and what the legacy of it was.
Well, I was working with women in particular, and I wanted to get them to do 2-3 things. One of them was to eat better than they were eating, try and get a bit of exercise, and try and chill out a little bit, because they were all stuck at home in their own lives, leading it, being busy, bringing children up, and I wanted to give them a space where they can do all of that. And a lot of the first generation Bangladeshi women came from the villages back in Sylhet, so they were exposed and had a lot of knowledge and skills. I didn't. They had a lot of knowledge and skills about food growing. So, and in the UK there is a system called allotments, you know, where you can rent out a space from your local council to grow your own food. It was in fashion in the 30s and 40s, and it sort of went out of fashion a little bit, but it's back in fashion now. It's very hip now. But
the Bangladeshi women have been doing it since they arrived in this country.
But they were doing it all in the gardens, and you know, sometime in the concrete backyards, in buckets, in whatever they can lay their hands on. So it was actually a case of, look, there is a formal process. Here's how you can do it. Here's you getting out of your house, getting a little bit of exercise, growing things that are fresh and healthy that you can eat. But also the best thing about it was chilling out with a few of your friends. And they loved it, and we loved it.
And it ran on for years and years and years.
It did. I mean, there was a massive legacy, and still there is still some allotments happening, and a lot of other people replicated it across the country. I mean, we won at the time, I think it must have been 98, when we won the Good Food Award for innovative projects, and I loved it because I got to go on national television. But even more than that, it was the fact that it was our little project, and that gave us national recognition. So yeah, fantastic, loved it.
What I liked about it is that actually what it was saying, instead of looking at these women as helpless and have got nothing to offer, it was going, hang on, you're already good at gardening, you're interested, let's upscale it a little bit. And
they were never helpless. They knew, you know, they had that skill set, they had the passion, they wanted to do it.
Absolutely.
It's you know, it was just opportunity. It was giving them that knowledge to say, do you know there is something called an allotment that you can borrow, and here's where they are, and this is how you get it. And like you say, it's still happening now. I mean, I stopped being involved years and years and years back, and people are still doing it. Actually, I have my own allotment as of this year.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I took on just. I think it's a great opportunity to get a bit of exercise, but more than that, it's a chill out time. It's somewhere where you can go and just look. And you can plant flowers, you can plant fruit trees, and that takes little or no work.
You could have a she den.
Or you can get your husband to dig and plant some proper food. By the way, coriander is incredibly difficult to grow. I know my mum and her friends tell me otherwise, but I've tried and I've given up.
Oh, potatoes are very easy to grow.
Yes.
Raspberries.
Yeah.
Plant an apple tree. It
I
gives
know,
you fruit
it just
for years.
keeps it going.
I'm just telling you
Yeah.
the extent of my gardening. I am an enthusiastic gardener. I'm not necessarily what I'd call a skilled gardener. And yeah,
Well, you see, I have the skill, but I can't grow. I don't have the green fingers. You know, they talk
yeah.
about green fingers.
Yeah.
I can give you all the knowledge you need. Sprinkle some coriander seeds and it never comes up.
Oh dear, oh dear. I have a sister who's very green-fingered actually.
Oh,
She didn't
yeah.
know it, and it's only she's recently discovered that she is, because she remembers exact conditions her plants need. She remembers how much water.
yeah.
She remembers which time of the year to prune them, you know, to cut them
Yeah,
back
yeah.
and stuff, how far to cut them. I don't, so I just like do
Yeah,
all things
bless
at the
her.
wrong times. Well, that's excellent, and like I said, that was one of the projects, and the legacy stuff is really important, isn't it? Because those skills have remained, people are doing that. I know a brother-in-law joined us in this country many years after that. He's got his own allotment, and it's just making the unusual normal.
Yeah,
and it's not
it
because
is.
it's unusual, it's just because we don't know about it.
Yeah.
So how do you share that information? So speaking of the not normal or the unusual things that you have made normal, a while back now, I believe you were a councillor. You decided to stand for the local elections. What prompted that?
I did. It wasn't, but I never left. It wasn't something I always wanted to do. You know, some people just know when they want to go into politics, and it wasn't something I wanted to go into politics. I was working for the NHS. It was my very second job, I think, and I was promoting walking. And so another thing was to try and get people to go out walking. It's not fashionable in Asian or Bangladeshi or Pakistani.
In the South Asian culture, you walk for a reason. You go from A to B, and you go for a purpose. And you don't
and
walk
only
around
if you
aimlessly.
can't, only if you can't get a taxi or your friend isn't dropping you off, you know, or your husband. So it was like, well, how do you make it interesting? How do you make it work? How do you promote walking? Because walking was a fantastic exercise for people who weren't getting any exercise, and it was making it easy, making it okay, and making them aware of things that they just needed to be aware of. Because the worst thing ever in the UK is when you're out walking and it starts raining and you get soaked. It's horrible, isn't it? So anyway, that's a whole new another area of discussion to be had. So I was coming across lots of things that weren't right within our local area and the areas that I was working in, and trying to encourage people to walk. Bearing in mind my previous job was trying to encourage people to be more active and eat better and things like that. And the other thing was happening was a lot of people will remember the demonstration around the Iraq war, where the whole of the nation was against, you know, UK going into war with Iraq. And it was, you know, you sort of feel like this demonstration where you got millions of people saying don't do it, and as a nation we still went and did it, you know, and you think, oh, what do you do? And somebody said to me, you know, if you want, somebody actually didn't say it to me, but sent me a fridge magnet with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Honestly, you know, saying if you want change, you have to be the change.
Yeah, be the change you want to see.
Be something like that. And I remember thinking, oh wow, yeah, that's really interesting. It is right, because if you don't instigate that change, who will? You know, do you wait for somebody else to come and help you with that change? So I bumped into a Green councillor at the time. Bearing in mind I hated politicians.
Not a green-coloured human, but a Green Party councillor.
Green Party councillor. And bearing in mind, people have this image, you know, of politicians as not nice, not decent, not integrity, you know, not people with integrity, she says, having been a councillor for 14 years. And he was really lovely, and he came across as being a really decent human being. You know, he wasn't doing it for glory. You don't become a councillor for glory. You don't become a councillor for money, because you don't get paid. You know, you get an allowance, but you don't get enough to pay your mortgage. And I thought, oh, that's the thought, you know. So that's how I got involved in politics. Became a councillor, which, you know, I loved. I was a councillor for 14 years, loved it. There were definitely times when you know, you sort of think, okay, that's it, I'm giving up now. And there are other times where you think, honestly, that feels so good, because you make change, and you make, as an activist, you make change, and you have an impact on that area where you're an activist on. As a councillor, you make a change and it has an impact across the district. So you see the positiveness of it. And for anybody who's watching, who's thinking, oh, I'm not into politics, or I don't like politics, or I don't vote, I think they're all this, I think. And actually, you know, do you worry about your street lights? Do you worry about your bin collection? Do you worry about your children's school? Do you worry about your local shop? You know, everything, all the local decisions are made by councillors. So actually go out and vote for the right one. Don't keep just voting, you know, the same old, same old. Don't vote because somebody tells you to vote.
And hold people to account.
Yeah, and hold people to account. When somebody says, I will do this and doesn't do it, go back and question them. And it's, you know, they're having an impact on your life and how you live it. You know, we think we're independent, we think, and actually, you know, something like you're thinking, oh, well, how can they have an impact on what I eat? I get to choose. But actually, they decide who gets planning permission to open up a shop in your local area, which will have an impact on the choice of food you have, which will have an impact on the food you eat. That's
so
just an example.
Like, yeah, exactly. Things like planning permission for lots of fast food places next to schools. I remember there was a big debate about it.
I know that was one of the areas where you feel really pleased because it was one of my pet hates and I really wanted. So about 4 or 5 years ago in Bradford, we as an authority decided we weren't going to give any more new planning permission for any fast food outlets near anywhere where children congregate. So that's school, mosque, madrasas, anywhere like that. They will not get within 100, I think it was 100 metres of any of those areas, because they were just springing up everywhere. And that limits the choice our children have, because it's so easy to wander home or wander past and just, you know, just get some chicken and chips or whatever it is that fast food outlet is selling, or pizza and chips. And then they come home and they don't want to eat the decent food that you've cooked at home, or, you know, the healthier option you might have at home. And then what do? You know, that choice is taken away from you.
So that was a piece of
so
policy that you influenced as a local council.
Yeah, and I loved it. And that's just an example to say, you know, that was the thing where I thought, I'm really pleased with that. I'm pleased with that. I mean, like I said, there are other things where you think, like, I don't know, last year there was an incinerator that got planning permission in Keighley. And for people, everybody's thinking, what was that? When she said Keighley is one of our local towns. And, you know, I wasn't on planning committee and I couldn't do anything. And I felt really angry and really helpless because I really didn't want, and it did. And that was and I wanted to balance out the good thing with, you know, things that did irritate me.
And unfortunately, you know, I was just going to say, councillors, absolutely hold them to account. You know, we do elect them, we should engage with them, should talk to them, and, you know, Bradford at the moment has some really good councillors as well.
Definitely.
But just be aware that they're not God, so they can't fix everything. And certainly there's a timetable and time scale in which people can fix things. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about, so at some point then, you decided you were going, how did you become a Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor?
It was offered, and I took it. I thought, oh, that's a thought. And I suppose, you know, if I'd sat back and thought about it and thought about the time commitment, I might have not gone for it. So it was like, you know, here's an opportunity. Do you want to be the Deputy Lord Mayor for a year? And I just thought, yeah, okay. And I literally must have thought about it for about half a minute. I thought, yeah, okay, you know, that sounds good. I want to experience it all. Because you just don't know, you know, sometimes opportunities come, sometimes they don't. And for me, it's like, if there's going to be an opportunity, I'm going to take it. So just coming here today, you know.
Fantastic. Very grateful.
So, yeah, I sort of went for it. I mean, it taught me lots of positive things, but the best thing it taught me was what an amazing city Bradford is. For everybody who's watching it, who's dissing Bradford, who thinks Bradford is down in the dumps, of course Bradford has its problems, just as any other city has. Sometimes it's more obvious than other times. Sometimes the media plays it up more than other times. But, you know, I think the amazing events and activities that I attended, the people, the different types of stuff that was happening in and around Bradford, I loved it. I just thought, and that was what I took that whole year, the biggest learning was it is an amazing city. Don't ever undervalue it. Don't ever underestimate it. It's our city. This is our home. This is our passion. We should love it and we should promote it and we should respect it. You know, we shouldn't diss it and go to a nearby city, and we shouldn't always compare it to other large cities. We have our own. You know, this is our city. This is our identity, and us or anybody dissing it doesn't do it any favour at all. But it's an amazing city. Don't take my word for it. Go out and see.
Explore it. Honestly, Bradford is amazing. When recently I've been having more visitors from out of town, and when I show them around, it's just like they're like absolutely blown away, because, and that's not, I don't take them to fancy places, things like this. I drive them around as I would, and we get to where we're going, and they can't believe what it looks like, and how comfortable they feel, how welcome. And don't get me wrong, because people, if people are listening, they'll be saying, what about homelessness, what about rubbish and this, that, and the other. You know what,
find me a
any
city
big
that
city
doesn't have
with
it.
over 500,000 people in it is going to have those issues. They do have
find
those
me
issues.
a city that doesn't have those issues.
I was just going to say, but for some reason in Bradford we focus on that side as opposed to all the positives. So let's talk about your Lord Mayorship again, your Deputy Lord Mayorship. Am I right in saying that you will have been the first female Bangladeshi Lord Mayor? In the
I
country?
think I was.
I think it's the first.
So I was the first Bangladeshi person to be elected on behalf of the Green Party. So that was really good. And I was the first Bangladeshi woman in Bradford as a councillor. It's not. I mean, I would encourage people, anybody with the tiniest inclination, get involved in politics. Get involved, even if you don't ever want to stand and become a councillor. Get involved.
Join
Join
political party
it doesn't
you want.
matter. Get involved. Have your say in the party itself. If you have a passion about it, get involved. You know, I like I said, I really enjoyed it. Really appreciated it.
How was your family with you? You know, when you decided, you know, you on the spur of a moment you're going to become a councillor and then the Lord Mayor. How were they? Were they supportive? Were they a little bit worried?
Yeah, I think by then my parents had given up on me. I think they were a bit like, oh God, is it? Oh, you know, what is it now? You know, go right. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do this and see what happens. But they were really supportive.
I've seen your mum, and I can tell she's so proud of you and what you've been
and far more supportive than I gave them credit for. Because you know, when you do something different, you play it a bit, don't you? You sort of think, let's just keep it down. I don't want to, you know, upset them too much. And they're like, yeah, whatever, go and do it. You know, enough to give up job because you still have to pay your mortgage and you know, feed your children. And I had two young boys at the time. So I would literally finish work, and the Lord Mayor's car with the security guard and the chains would be there outside my office in the car park for me to leave work, put the bling bits on and wander off to an event.
And that, you mean the mayoral chains?
Yeah, the chains. And go to an event. And sometime if it was an early morning event, I'd go to the event first and then come to work.
So and not to forget that you were raising two children as well.
I was raising two children at the time.
Well, we'll pick a little bit up on that again, but we're going to go for another quick break. So inshallah, viewers, will see you on the other side. Thank you.
Schaefer, I've been considering you to head up sales.
Hanson, I've been thinking of you for that new board position.
Get to McDonald's for the new Big Grilled Hot Dog and Apple Pie Triple Thick Shake. Get both for just $2.49. A 100% beef hot dog grilled to perfection in a creamy Apple Pie Triple Thick Shake, all for $2.49. What a combo!
Oh, sure hope I can get someone's email fixed today.
It's time. Ford's authorized clearance. Time of the year to buy the best-selling compact pickup, Ford Ranger. And now, during Ford's authorized clearance, get 0% financing for 60 months. That's no interest for 5 years on Ranger. 0% for 60 months saves you over $4,000 in finance charges on the truck with more torque and more horsepower than Toyota Tacoma. Ford's authorized clearance. Going on now at your local Ford dealer.
See it, taste it, love it. It is the Colonel's mouth-watering secret recipe fried chicken, featuring 10 pieces for a special summertime price of only $8.99. That's right, for just $8.99. Get the complete meal starter from KFC. Let the Colonel make mealtime believers out of your family with the 10-piece summertime special. Enjoy it and share it. And remember, there's fast food, then there's KFC.
Fortunate, yielding something desirable in an unforeseen manner. The 2002 Honda Clearance, the once-a-year opportunity for special savings on all available Accords. Fortune is smiling on you. The 2002 Honda Clearance. Lucky you. Now you can lease a 2002 Accord LX for $239 a month for 48 months.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. I'm here with Harun Hussein Saunders, and we've been talking about the 70-year anniversary of the NHS. We've talked about being a Lord Mayor, getting involved in local politics, even if you don't want to be a councillor, get involved with your party.
Any party.
Yeah, any party. And on this show we do talk quite a bit about, and it's a regular saying that I say, is life isn't a spectator sport. You're not supposed to stand by and watch. You know, you're supposed to get involved, and we talk about being...
Don't know your thing's falling off. Sorry to distract you. Your mic speaker thing. There you go.
So, what do you think? What more would you like to add about your community work that you've been doing?
I think my suggestion to people, like you say, is don't stand back and let somebody else deal with it. You know, they're not going to deal with it to your benefit to you. They'll deal with how they see it, and that's anything. You know, if you're not, if you want to make a change, get involved. Go out and do it. If you're a sister out there, or an auntie, or a young girl, you know, and you want to get involved, who's stopping you? What is it that's stopping you getting involved in something? And it doesn't matter what that something is. If you want to go for a walk, go for it. Don't wait. Don't think what will other people say. Don't think what will my neighbour say. If you want to go for a walk, prepare yourself, get some comfy shoes on, put a couple of layers on so if you get warm you can take something off, and go. You know, and if you want to go and climb a mountain, Yorkshire Dales is is I don't know.
You've done plenty of walking.
30 minutes, 40 minutes on the train. You don't even have to drive. You don't need a car. Get yourself a train ticket. Get out there. If you want to get involved in politics, do it. If you want to get yourself a job, do it. Don't wait.
Absolutely. So basically what we're saying is the moment is now.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because you talked about transport and we talked quite a bit about walking. There's lots of benefits of walking, obviously, in terms of your personal health, but there is an impact on the environment as well.
It is. You know, we have one planet, and I get really passionate about this, as you can see. There isn't a planet B. There isn't somewhere where if this planet goes, is destroyed, that we can't pack up and go somewhere else. There isn't somewhere else. And what are we leaving for our children? You and I would give up. You know, if somebody said to me, we need a chunk of your heart and half your liver for your child, I would give that up. You know, I wouldn't blink an eyelid. But none of the parents would. You know, we would give up our own heart, our liver, our kidneys, whatever, for our children. And yet we don't do the basics of giving them a future. We want to save money so they have a future, they have a better future than we do. But we're destroying it.
We're destroying the planet that they're going to live on.
And for anybody who didn't watch Blue Planet last year, please watch it. There are DVDs available. It's available on BBC. You know, any opportunity, just watch it and see how much damage we've done using plastics. And I say we, I mean we as a planet, we as human beings, and much more the West, you know, Europe and America, because we use more
developed
of it. Yeah, the developed countries, because we use more of it in this area. And of course, I understand that there will be, and we will need some plastic. So things like when you go shopping, you will need to carry it home somehow. I understand that, totally appreciate that. But actually, if you're in a, do you really need to buy water bottles? That's my biggest bugbear.
Well, I will come back to some really practical tips. But what I was just going to say, so This month is Plastic Free July.
Yes.
And you just alluded to the Blue Planet program, which is Richard Attenborough's program exploring the world and the seas particularly, so the oceans and the seas. And one of the scenes in that was actually these seas of plastic, these huge mountains of gatherings around the sea coast, but also plastic inside animals, plastic straws stuck inside turtles, you know, so that's the damage. So we may throw away plastic and we don't see it again, but it turns up in another part of our ecosystem. And one thing we have to remember is that all our lives are intertwined, you know, they're all connected together.
I mean, the thing, and people, what people don't realise is that, you know, when you throw away what they class as biodegradable, anything green, like a banana peel or fruit or vegetables, you throw it away and it decomposes, it turns into soil. You throw plastic away and it will still be here in 100 years, it'll still be here in 500 years because it doesn't decompose.
And disposable nappies.
Yeah, disposable nappies. And I you know, I don't want to, it's a whole world out there of, you know, plastic issues actually, but my immediate thing is going to be, do the things you can do. Plastic straws is a typical one. You know, when you have a glass of Coke, glass of drink, glass, you know, of juice, do you really need a straw? Do you really need a straw to drink it?
Use what God gave you, use your lips.
Yeah, can you not just use the glass? So that's one thing. And the water bottle, not only are we paying an astronomical amount for a bottle of water, which is free, we have perfectly good,
tap water.
really great tap water in Yorkshire. In a fantastic quality, it's tested, it's you know, there's lots of reasons why we should be drinking tap water. We don't really need to pay even 20 pence for a bottle of water, because you're not just paying for that water, you're paying 20 pence for a bottle of water, that's free coming out of your tap, but you're paying for that bottle, which, what do you do with it? You know, you bin it, and then what? And do you know, the really amazing thing is that the water bottles are grade A plastic, which is the top notch of plastic, and we bin it, you know, because it's clear, it's top grade plastic, it could be recycled 1,000 times and it'd still be fine, and yet we don't, we bin it. And I know for everybody who's thinking, oh, I put it in my recycling bin, of course we do, but actually that the amount of waste and what is recycled are minute.
So we need to do more about that. So let's break it down. So in terms of the plastic things, what can really simple things. So one is recycle everything you can.
We, you know, in Bradford, in our city, we are allowed to recycle all our plastic food containers except the black ones, because the machine can't see the black on the conveyor belt, if you haven't guessed. But so we can recycle all our food, and we don't have to separate it. We can just pick it, put it all in one bin, and the council will take it every other week. Every 2 weeks, the council will come and take a recycling bin. So recycle as much as we can. We can't recycle plastic bags, so anything that's in a bag type, then it's not recyclable yet. So what we do is we just use less of it, you know, where we can. So for example, if you go into your local supermarket and there is a bag of apple, or there is 6 loose apples, what you'll often find is the loose one, you get to choose what you're getting, and it's cheaper because it doesn't have their wrapping, and you're not getting a plastic, you know, bag with it. So actually, why would you pick a packet of plastic, you know, apple in a plastic thing? I mean, I find it really funny when they start wrapping bananas up. Bananas come in its own wrapping.
Nature's wrapping.
Yeah,
they're banana
pineapple,
skin.
I know, pineapple comes in its own wrapping. Melons come in its own wrapping. Why do we want to wrap it up again? If you're really, you know, if you look at it and think, what? Tweet, you know, send a message to your supermarket. If you don't want to tweet it, talk to the worker there and then and say, why have you got it there? Because it all gets fed back into the system. Don't get angry with them. Just say, look, I'm not happy with the fact that you're doing wrapping. And you don't have to do anything other than just say that, and they will feed it back to the manager, and then the company will change. If we want change, we have to instigate that change.
So really, oh my God, I can't believe our hour together is nearly up, literally. So last thoughts on Plastic Free July, because we're going to do, I think we'll do a proper show about all of this, because it's part of our responsibility as Muslims, as humans who live on this earth. So one final thought on recycling and inheriting the world for our children.
Hadith says if you chop down a tree, you must plant 3 to protect the environment. That's just one, one tiny bit of hadith, you know. And if you read it, Islam gave us environmental protection laws 1500 years ago. You know, we're talking about environmental protection now. Islam gave it to us 1500 years ago.
So
when
what we're
other people
realising-
weren't even thinking about it, you know.
But they were thinking about being careful with the environment that they live in.
Look after the environment, look after the world, look after, you know, and why wouldn't we?
Right. So, indeed, thank you very much for your time here. Please do go on Google or look up, Plastic Free July. There'll be lots of hints and tips. And inshallah, I will see you on the next show, and we will definitely have our sister here back with us. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.